Well, Bill, when you returned to Brussels after the British vote, were you a bit of a pariah among your fellow MEPs?
No, it was a bit of a mixed bag. Some of them came up and very warmly congratulated me. One even hugged me and lifted me off the ground, and that takes some doing. But yeah, some of the other ones were bitterly upset and angry, and I can understand their point of view. But this is democracy. We hold different opinions, we hold different views. We thrash it out, and the public decides, and then we have to all move on and make the best of it.
I mean, everybody said it was going to be pretty close, 52-48 thereabouts. Did you, in your heart of hearts, actually think you were going to win?
No. I was all set to go with a narrative and a press release stating that the people of the West Midlands had voted to leave, but unfortunately the rest of the country hadn't followed suit. But there was a clear message from the West Midlands, and that we would pursue the wishes of the people of the West Midlands to continue, and we weren't going to give up, because I knew we would win the West Midlands. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that the people of the West Midlands would vote to leave, but I was pleasantly surprised and delighted that the rest of, well, certainly the rest of England and Wales followed suit and went the same way, and that was great, and I'm eternally grateful to the voters for making this choice.
What do you think swayed it in the end?
I think it's a combination of factors. I mean, undoubtedly the immigration argument was up there, controversially as it was, but it was there. But I think a lot of people also didn't like the way the campaign was running as much as I think they felt bullied. And when I was out in the streets, and I spent much of the last couple of weeks just talking to people on the streets, there was that sort of British spirit starting to come through, which maybe had been dormant for a while, where people were saying, don't tell me what to do. And certainly Barack Obama's intervention, I'm very glad of that. I'm thinking of sending him a card of thanks, because the number of people who mentioned that and said, what on earth is an American president coming here and telling us what to do with our own sovereignty? I think it had a huge effect for our side. Thank you, Mr. Obama.
What do you think the future holds for you then?
Well, for me, obviously, when we finally leave, when Article 50 is invoked, when the Tories finally get themselves sorted out, there will be a wind down, and I'm expecting as soon as within a couple of years for me to lose my job here, and I'll gladly come back to the UK and do whatever I can be useful doing in the UK.
What do you think is the biggest thing you've achieved while you've been there so far?
Undoubtedly, the biggest thing that I've achieved in my entire working life is to be part of this campaign, this referendum campaign. There is no greater issue than sovereignty. There is no more important subject than democracy. And to have been part of such a massive campaign, and to have been on the side that had more votes for it than any British government has ever had in an election, to have had 52% of the voting public on our side in this referendum, it's the most wonderful thing I've ever been involved with, and if I live to be 100, I shall look back on it with pride. Because
so many people have said, you were a turkey voting for Christmas, weren't you?
Yeah, in terms of this job, of course, but there are other things that can be done. My aim has always been to get into Westminster as a UKIP MP. I believe that our chances are still strong to do that. We've got to pull ourselves together and organise ourselves properly, but that can be done. I'm still a local councillor and still helping the people of Sedgley and Dudley with day-to-day issues, which is incredibly rewarding. And at the end of the day, even if I fail in all my political ambitions, well, you know what? I used to sell steel for 20 years. I'm sure there might be a job out there that I'll try and get. It's not the end of the world to be losing this job as an MEP. It's what I came here to do, and I'm extremely excited I've achieved it.
What did you make of your leader saying, not for the first time, that he'd had enough?
Well, I think it was the right choice. Nigel's given everything, absolutely everything, over decades to this cause. And it's very rarely that politicians go out on top. Now, I don't think for a second that means Nigel's going to be quiet and fade into the background. That's not who he is. But for him to continue leading the party, I think he'd had enough. And I think, actually, it's probably going to be a good opportunity for the party to renew, for us to get some fresh ideas, show some of the other talents in the party who, it's very difficult for talent to grow in the shadow of a great political figure, which I believe Nigel is. And now some of the other people can really come to the fore and show the public that we're not a one-man band, but we're actually a very decent bunch of people who are here to try and make things better.
Hasn't part of UKIP's success been, though, the fact that he was such an out-there, in-your-face type of politician?
Yeah, undoubtedly. I mean, there is absolutely no way I would be sitting here now if it wasn't for Nigel. Nigel took a party that wasn't even registering in the opinion polls, and it's got I think in the latest ones we're about 15 or 16%, you know, 4 million votes in a general election, playing a massive part in the referendum campaign. He has, not single-handedly, but with very much at the forefront, he has led this party to being the third biggest party in the UK, and you know, we owe him a massive amount of gratitude for that. And like he said, he's more than done his bit.
But do you not think that an awful lot of people will say exactly that UKIP have done what they set up to do, he's done what he's set up to do, we don't need them anymore?
If they think that, then that's a shortcoming on the part of people like myself and the other representatives of our party. We've got to let people see more clearly our whole policy prospectus. We can make a real difference. There's a clamour of the other parties to aim for this sort of mythical centre ground of politics, to go by focus group, to follow the latest vote. What I think UKIP can be is an alternative, especially now we're leaving the EU. We can propose new ideas, new ways of doing things without the constraints of EU laws and regulations. And we can offer the British public a chance of real change. And for my own part, the sort of social mobility and the ability for the working classes to improve their lot through hard work and endeavour is something I think has been massively underestimated and let down by the other parties. And I think this is our chance to really be the party that is of aspiration.
And I suppose the point you would mention here is that at the last general election, you know, you got all those votes and yet you ended up with little to show for it. So rather like the Liberals and now the Liberal Democrats have done over the years, you're very much arguing for PR.
I know that the parties said that we need electoral reform, and yeah, there is an argument for that. But at the end of the day, you know, you go into any contest and you know the rules at the start. You know, we got 4 million votes, great. Only one MP, so we lost. You know, and we've got to be realistic about that and say, look, we know what the rules are. The big parties aren't going to vote to change those rules because I've never yet as a turkey once voted for Christmas. So it's down to us to focus ourselves, understand the rules and play by the rules in order to win. And then once we're in, once we've got a considerable number of MPs, we can then properly pressurise for fair and reasonable change. But now, I'm not going to be going around crying, saying, oh, no, the system's against us, the system's against us. I'll leave that to Lib Dems. In UKIP, we want to focus on the positive. And, you know, we know the way forward and we're going to battle to get to Westminster. And once there, we'll enact real change that will be for the good of everyone.
Just a couple of final points. Obviously, there is so much going on politically back here in the UK at the moment, and you are as interested in that as you are in what's going on there. What do you make of what the Labour Party are doing now? I mean, they've actually said, yes, Jeremy Corbyn doesn't have to have 51 MPs or MEPs backing him. He can still be on the ballot paper, because he clearly is determined to hang on, isn't he?
Yeah, and this is a difficult one because, you know, I fundamentally oppose what Mr Corbyn believes in. However, he won an absolutely crushing majority not very long ago to become the Labour Party leader. Now all of a sudden, because the MPs, a very small number of the Labour membership actually, represented by just a handful of MPs, want to change things, they're trying to stop him standing again. Yeah, he will face this challenge and he will undoubtedly beat, and he will fall the Labour Party into probably a more socialist organisation. And actually, what's wrong with that? You know, I don't agree with socialism, but I think the people who believe in it should have an option of a party to vote for. And rather than, you know, this sort of old Blairite way of pretending to be sort of conservative light, let's have a socialist Labour Party, let's have the other parties doing what they want, and let's have UKIP offering an alternative to the working classes on slightly different parts of the spectrum, and let's have a proper debate about the issues of the day, rather than everyone hiding what they really believe, as Tony Blair, David Cameron, I think, did for many years. Let's have a real debate of the issues. Democracy is an intoxicating thing, and let's make politics exciting again.
Well, it's been probably as busy a couple of weeks as anybody can remember. And of course, as we sit here now, David Cameron's on his way to see the Queen today, and resign, and Theresa May taking over. Are you happy at the thought of another lady at number 10?
not really about whether it's a man or a woman, about whether they do the right job. I'm glad to see the back of David Cameron, don't get me wrong, but Theresa May, I don't see too much of a difference. I think the Conservative Party had an opportunity to really grasp the moment, to see that the public was against the status quo, to embrace the opportunity for real new and exciting change, and all they've done really is voted for more of the same. And I think that's really disappointing. And I think the surge in people who are coming across from the Tories to UKIP over the last few days since this became inevitable is a sign of things to come. People don't want more of the same. People want something interesting, new, positive, bright, and they're not going to get that from the continuation of this sort of centre ground, group-driven nonsense that we've had for years. Time for something different.
Turned around politically, as I would expect you to do. Bill Etheridge, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you. Pleasure.